What happens when a CEO walks into one of his own stores dressed as a new hire and sees a cashier, barely standing, but still showing more heart than anyone else in the building? Owen Nichols had been running the business for over 6 years now. He bought the company from its original founder, cleaned up the books, expanded to 7 locations, and built a solid reputation in the community. Or so he thought. But lately, the tone of customer reviews had started to shift. Not everywhere, just at one particular location on the east side of town. Store number 4. Complaints about slow service, wrong orders, unclean counters. Nothing major on its own, but it didn't sit right with him. He called the district manager, who blamed staffing shortages and said the location was treading water. Owen didn't like that phrasing. When he pressed for details about the store manager, the answer was vague. He's managing. Enough. That wasn't good enough, so Owen did what he hadn't done in years. He went back undercover. He shaved his beard, dyed his hair a lighter brown, and wore a thick pair of glasses. His assistant got him added to the system under the name Jason, a transfer trainee from another location. Since the chain had grown and turnover was high at this particular store, no one here had ever met him in person. They'd only know his name, not his face. He showed up just before the morning rush, wearing a plain uniform polo and khakis. The manager, a tall guy in his early 40s named Rick, greeted him at the side entrance. "You're the transfer." Rick glanced at a printed schedule. "All right, don't get in the way." "We're short today." "How short?" Rick rolled his eyes. 3 people called out. "Again, they're all part-timers. This generation doesn't want to work." Owen didn't reply. He followed Rick in, noting the sticky floors and dusty corners. The place looked like it hadn't been deep cleaned in weeks. Rick barked orders at a few employees, then turned to Owen. "You'll shadow with Kara. She's on register too." Owen nodded. "Got it." He found Kara already working, her shoulders slumped, eyes a little puffy. She looked maybe 25, early 30s at most, with a name tag that read, Kara T. "Hey," she said without looking up. "You the trainee?" "Yeah, Jason. All right, just watch for now, it's gonna get busy." And it did. By noon, the line was out the door. Kara moved fast, always polite, ringing up orders, double-checking items, and apologizing when someone had to wait. Owen noticed her flinch once when she bent down to grab a dropped receipt. She pressed her palm against her lower back for a second, then kept going. "You all right?" he asked in a low voice. "Yeah, just tired. Second double this week." "Why?" She glanced over her shoulder. "We're always short." "Rick says payroll's tight, so if someone calls out, someone else has to cover. That someone's usually me." Owen frowned but said nothing. Around 2, the lunch crowd died down. Kara finally took a breath. She leaned against the back counter, eyes half closed. Owen could tell she was running on fumes. That's when an elderly man walked in. Thin, maybe mid-80s, using a cane and moving slow. Nobody offered to help him. Rick was in the back office. A few teens working the kitchen were laughing at something on their phones. Kara straightened up immediately. "Mr. Lenny," she called out, walking around the counter. The old man smiled. "Hey there, sweetheart. I told you to call if you needed help coming in, and I told you I can still walk." She took his arm gently and helped him to a table, then brought out a chair for him. Owen watched quietly as Kara went behind the counter, grabbed a tray, and started putting together a meal without charging him. "Turkey sandwich, no mustard, apple slices, and a cup of water. You want the heated blanket again?" Mr. Lenny nodded, smiling. "If you got it." She went to the back room and returned with a small lap blanket folded neatly. She draped it over his legs and squeezed his shoulder. Owen couldn't believe what he was seeing. "You do this for him often?" he asked once she returned behind the counter. "Every Tuesday and Friday." "He lives alone. His daughter passed last year and he doesn't really have anyone else." "You pay for that food," she shrugged. "I use my discount. Sometimes I just cover it. He never asks." Owen's throat tightened. "Why do you do it?" Kara looked over at Mr. Lenny. "Because someone should." A long pause hung between them. Owen didn't say anything else, but in his mind, something shifted hard. Whatever was wrong with this store, it wasn't Kara, and he was going to find out who was making her carry all of it on her own. By the next morning, Owen had already decided he wasn't going anywhere. He told Rick that Jason had been approved for a week-long rotation due to corporate training requirements. Rick didn't care enough to question it. The energy in the store was different before opening. 5 employees trickled in 3 teenagers, a woman in her 50s named Norma who handled prep, and Kara again. Owen noticed she walked slower this time, her right hand resting on her hip as if she'd slept wrong, but she didn't complain. She greeted everyone, rolled up her sleeves, and started prepping registers without being asked. Rick showed up 15 minutes after opening. He didn't greet anyone, just walked straight to the back and shut the door. "Does he ever work the floor?" Owen asked one of the teens, a kid named Marcus who was slicing tomatoes at the prep table. "Nope. He says he's managing from the back, mostly just scrolls on his phone or argues with vendors." Owen nodded slowly. "And what happens when someone calls out?" "We just figure it out," Marcus said, shrugging. "Kara usually takes over whatever's missing." Owen turned to Kara, who was wiping down the front counter. "You ever get a break?" She looked up briefly. "Usually around 3. "If it's not too busy." He checked the wall schedule. Kara was listed for a double again. Back-to-back shifts with only a 30-minute unpaid break in between. That was legal, but barely. As the day picked up, Owen was assigned to shadow Marcus in the prep area. He kept his head down and observed. Marcus was fast but distracted. He checked his phone often and twice stepped away mid-task to take calls. When Owen asked if that was allowed, Marcus just shrugged and said, "No one cares." By noon, the line had started forming again. Kara was on register, Norma was trying to keep up with sides and drinks, and Owen noticed the fry station had been left unattended. "Where's the fry cook?" "Supposed to be Amanda," Marcus said. "She texted Rick this morning, said her schedule got changed last minute and she had class. He told her to figure it out." "Did he call someone else in?" Marcus laughed under his breath. "You're funny." Owen stepped over to Kara, who was now pouring drinks and bagging orders while still ringing up customers. "Want me to jump on register?" She hesitated. "You know it?" "No, but I can bag and run food." "You sure?" "Yeah, you shouldn't be doing 3 people's jobs." She gave a small nod and handed him a pair of gloves. Owen jumped into the line, helping prepare trays and run them to the front. The pace was relentless. At one point, Kara's hands trembled slightly while counting out change. She switched to card only for a few minutes and flexed her fingers behind the counter. By 2:30, the line finally cleared. Kara sat down at the side booth for her break. She didn't eat, just closed her eyes and leaned her head back against the wall. Owen took his own short break nearby and watched Rick emerge from the back office with a half-eaten sub sandwich. He had a Bluetooth headset in one ear and was muttering to someone on the phone. "Yeah, I told her if she keeps pulling this crap, she's out. I don't care if she's got a kid or whatever." Dead weight. He didn't notice Owen listening. Rick walked straight past Kara without acknowledging her, tossed his sandwich wrapper near the trash mist and kept walking. Owen stood. "You missed." Rick turned. "Huh, the trash, you missed." Rick gave him a flat look and walked off. Owen turned to Kara. "How long has he been like that?" Her eyes opened slowly. "Rick, since I started, almost 2 years now. Why hasn't anyone reported him?" She hesitated. "People have. A few quit after trying. District managers, his cousin or something. Nothing ever changes." Owen didn't respond. He just took a breath and walked back behind the counter. At 4, a woman in business clothes came in and asked for Rick. "He's in the back," Kara said. The woman narrowed her eyes. "He's supposed to be handling my vendor order. He's 2 days late." Owen offered to let Rick know. He knocked on the office door and cracked it open. "Vendor's here. Says she's been waiting." Rick didn't look up from his computer. "Tell her we're out of stock." "She'll get it when we get it. She says you're 2 days late. Then she can go somewhere else." Owen stepped back out, unsure what to say. The vendor stood there, arms crossed. "He hiding? He's not coming out." She shook her head. "Unbelievable. You guys used to be reliable." As she left, Owen returned to the prep area. Norma was rubbing her temples, looking pale. "You okay?" "Just a migraine. I'll be fine." "You need to sit." "I can't. I'm the only one on prep." Owen went to Rick again. "Norma's not feeling great. Can we get someone to cover prep?" Rick didn't even glance up. "Tell her to power through." Owen stepped back, jaw tight. By 6, the dinner rush started. Owen was on his feet, helping wherever he could. Kara hadn't left since opening. She hadn't eaten, her voice was hoarse, but she kept going. At 6:40, a customer complained that their order was wrong. Kara apologized, fixed it, and comped aside without asking Rick. Rick stormed out of the office. "You don't authorize comps, that comes out of reportable loss. The order was wrong." "I don't care." "You're not authorized. It was a $2 side." Rick stepped closer. "You do this again, you're off closing shifts." Kara didn't argue. She just nodded and turned back to the counter. Owen followed Rick into the back room, shut the door. "You talk to her like that again and you won't have any shifts." Rick looked up, surprised. "Excuse me, you heard me." "Who do you think you are?" Owen took off his name tag. "Owen Nichols, owner." Rick's mouth opened then closed. "You've got 5 minutes to pack whatever you brought." "You're done here." Rick laughed nervously. "You're joking. This is how you handle things. I've watched you ignore staffing problems, dismiss vendor relationships, belittle employees, and sit on your phone while others work themselves into the ground. You're not a manager. You're a liability." Rick stepped back. "You can't just I can, and I just did. Back doors that way." Owen opened the office door and stepped aside. The kitchen had gone quiet. Kara stood frozen behind the register, a card still in her hand. Norma peeked from the prep station, holding a scoop of coleslaw mid-air. Rick walked out without a word. Owen turned to the crew. "Let's finish the night strong. I'll handle register 2. Kara, shift down to drive-through. Norma, take 10 minutes. You've earned it." No one moved at first. Then Kara nodded slowly and stepped away from the counter. Norma set her scoop down and headed to the break area. Owen washed his hands, stepped behind the register, and took the next order himself. That night, the store ran better than it had in weeks. Not perfect, but better. Orders went out faster. No one raised their voice. And for the first time that day, Kara smiled not because she had to, but because finally, someone had listened. The next morning, Owen arrived an hour earlier than the others without the disguise. He wore a plain navy fleece over his collared shirt. No name tag, no clipboard, just a heavy stare as he unlocked the front entrance himself. The lights flickered on slowly, humming through the silence. He stood at the center of the dining area, arms crossed, scanning every corner of the store. Scratches on the wall tiles, grease stains on the ceiling vents, a broken soap dispenser taped over in the restroom, neglect baked into the bones. At 6:45, Kara entered through the side door, stopping mid-step when she saw him. She froze. "You're..." He gave a quiet nod. "Yeah," she looked down at her shoes. "I didn't know, I wouldn't have. There's nothing you need to explain." He gestured toward the booth near the window. "Sit with me for a minute." She hesitated, glancing at the clock, then sat. Owen leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "I'm not here to make speeches. I came because I've been hearing things I didn't want to believe. I saw most of it for myself this week." Kara rubbed the edge of her sleeve. "You've carried more than anyone should. I don't need to know why you stayed this long. But I want to know what kept you from walking away." She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, "My mom worked 2 jobs when I was a kid. I'd wait for her in the back of the laundromat she cleaned. She never once asked for help. I promised myself I'd never become like that. But now I get it." Owen listened without interrupting. "This place, it's not just a job. It's rent, groceries, meds. And when there's no net under you, you don't get to choose what's too much. You just keep going." He nodded once. "Does anyone else know what you've been doing for Mr. Lenny?" She looked down. "No, I didn't think it mattered." "It does." The front door opened. Norma entered, bundled in a thick coat, her eyes widening when she saw Owen. He stood. "Morning, come sit." She blinked. "Sir, I didn't know, please, just Owen." She joined them hesitantly. "I've already spoken with our HR director," he said. Effective immediately, Kara is being promoted to assistant manager. You'll be reporting directly to me for now. Compensation increases accordingly. Benefits start next pay cycle. Kara's mouth parted slightly, but no words came. He turned to Norma. You're being moved to a 3-day work week with full pay held steady for the next 60 days. After that, we'll reassess, and you're getting a medical evaluation through our partner clinic. No cost to you. Norma covered her mouth with one hand. You've both kept this place standing, Owen said. That ends today. You're not doing it alone anymore. Before either of them could respond, the side door opened again. Marcus and 2 other teens from kitchen shift walked in mid-conversation. They stopped short when they saw him. Owen didn't wait. Marcus, we need to talk. The teen stiffened. What's going on? Come with me. They stepped into the stockroom. Owen closed the door behind them. I've been watching. You cut corners, ignore food safety protocols, and spend more time on your phone than on the line. Marcus glanced down, jaw tightening. You've been warned by Kara more than once. You disregarded her every time. Tell me why I should keep you. Marcus crossed his arms. Look, this job. It's whatever. I got school, sports. I'm not trying to make this my life. And that gives you permission to disrespect people around you. I didn't say that. No, you didn't, but it's what you've been doing, consistently. Marcus stayed silent. I'm not expecting perfection. But I won't tolerate apathy, not here. You're suspended for 1 week. If you want to return, you'll come back with a different attitude. 1 slip and it's final. Marcus looked away. Fine, leave your apron. Go. Marcus dropped the apron on the table and walked out, slamming the back door behind him. When Owen returned to the front, Kara and Norma were still seated. The other 2 teens stood nearby, unsure of what to do. You 2 names, Jared, one said. Lena, the other added. You're both on prep today. Kara's leading. You'll follow what she says exactly. If there's confusion, ask. If there's a problem, bring it to me. They nodded quickly. You're not here to coast. You're here to work. If that's not what you signed up for, leave now. Jared cleared his throat. We're good. Then get to it. By the time the store opened, there was no chaos. Orders moved slower than usual, but they moved. Kara delegated clearly. Jared and Lena asked questions instead of guessing. Norma stayed behind the line, but Owen had placed a stool near her station so she could sit when needed. At 11:10, a customer entered with a service dog. The line was short, but Jared hesitated behind the counter, looking unsure. Kara stepped in. How can we help you today? The woman placed her order calmly. But when the total came up, she looked at the screen, confused. That's higher than last week. Kara double-checked. There's a new charge for customizing sides, Jared offered. Owen stepped forward quietly. There's no such charge. That was added without authorization. Kara, refund the difference and remove that fee from the system. Jared flushed. I thought it was standard. It's not. The woman nodded, took her tray and left. Kara looked at Owen. That wasn't there yesterday. It wasn't there 2 hours ago either. Owen pulled out his phone and called corporate systems. Within 10 minutes, the charge was traced, added remotely by Rick 4 days ago under a store-level override code. It had quietly inflated totals by a few cents per item, unnoticed by most. Owen had the code deactivated and flagged for audit across all 7 locations. Then he called his compliance officer and requested a full review of Rick's tenure, including inventory discrepancies and vendor contract trails. By late afternoon, HQ had already confirmed that Rick had redirected at least 4 vendor deliveries to a personal storage unit under a false business name. Bulk goods, paper supplies, and even frozen meats all tagged as damaged in the system. Owen didn't wait for the investigation to finish. He called the district manager directly. This is Owen. Rick's out permanently, and if I find out you ignored reports because of family ties, you're next. The line went quiet. Understood, the voice on the other end said. Owen hung up. He walked back to the kitchen where Kara was helping Lena with the fryer timer. Got a second? She wiped her hands. Sure. He led her to the office Rick used to occupy. "I want you in here starting next week. This space is yours now," her brows lifted. "Me. Alone? I'll send someone from HQ to support you for the first month. But this store needs stability. You've earned the trust and the title." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped into the room and looked around. The chair was worn, the desk cluttered with old receipts and sticky notes. The walls still bore Rick's scribbled reminders. But the air felt different. "I'll do my best," he nodded. "That's all I ask." Outside, the dinner rush was approaching. The sound of beeping fryers and clinking trays filled the air. But for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel frantic. It felt like a place on the verge of being rebuilt, not by policy, but by people. One decision at a time. The first Monday after Rick's removal came with a quiet tension. No announcements had been made to customers, and no signs had gone up. But the atmosphere inside the store shifted the moment the front doors opened. Kara arrived before sunrise, keys in hand. She no longer needed to wait for someone else to unlock the building. She walked through the kitchen, noting the condition of the prep stations, and checked inventory against the new automated tally Owen's team had installed over the weekend software that would now flag discrepancies in real time. Nothing was left to guesswork anymore. Norma entered shortly after, carrying a small plastic container. She placed it gently on the break room table. "I made soup," she said, her voice low, "for anyone who needs something warm later." Kara smiled faintly. "Thank you. I'll make sure everyone knows." By 7:30, Jared and Lena had clocked in. They stood near the front register, waiting quietly. Kara walked up to them, holding a folded sheet of paper. "I've put together a new station schedule for the week. You'll rotate between prep, front, and drive-through. I want everyone cross-trained. If someone's out, we shouldn't fall apart." Jared scanned the sheet. "I've never done drive-through." "You'll learn. I'll train you myself." Lena glanced at Kara. "Do we still get cut if sales drop below quota?" "There's no penalty system anymore. That ended Friday. You'll be scheduled based on performance, attendance, and reliability. If you show up and pull your weight, you'll keep your hours." Neither teen responded right away, but Kara could see the shift in their posture. The uncertainty that had followed every schedule post was gone. Owen arrived just after noon, not in disguise, not as the boss, but not in the way he used to be either. He wore a plain pullover and jeans, stepped behind the counter, and washed his hands before speaking. "I'm not here to observe today. I'm part of the floor team. Kara's in charge." He looked each team member in the eye. No one laughed, no one rolled their eyes. They simply nodded and moved. The lunch rush came fast. Orders piled up, but the kitchen moved with a rhythm that hadn't existed before. Kara held her post at drive-through, guiding Lena through the headset system and correcting her gently when she fumbled the timing on combo upsells. Jared handled the register, checking every bag twice before handing it off. He didn't look at his phone once. Owen ran food, cleaned trays, and wiped down tables as soon as they cleared. He watched not just the employees, but the customers, most of whom didn't notice anything had changed, but a few regulars commented on quicker service and cleaner booths. At 2:30, Norma excused herself to the break room. She didn't ask permission, she didn't need to anymore. Kara glanced through the kitchen window to check on her. She sat quietly with a small bowl of soup, eyes closed, resting for just 10 minutes before returning to the line. At 4, a tall man in a business suit entered and asked for the manager. Kara stepped forward from behind the counter. "I'm the acting manager," she said. He introduced himself as a regional vendor rep. His tone was clipped, impatient. "I was told you canceled one of our regular shipments." "That's against contract terms." Kara didn't flinch. "The order was redundant. Our inventory tracking showed we hadn't used half of last month's delivery. We're not paying for excess. That's not your call." "It is now," she said evenly. "Your contract is under review. If you have an issue, take it up with operations." The man narrowed his eyes. "You're new, that's obvious." Owen stepped forward from the back, drying his hands on a towel. "She's not new," he said. She's the reason this store didn't collapse. If you can't speak to her as a professional, you're welcome to leave." The vendor muttered something under his breath and walked out. Kara exhaled slowly. "You handled that well," Owen said. "I didn't expect him to make it personal. People like that are used to dealing with people who won't push back. You did exactly what needed to be done." By 6, the dinner crowd began to roll in. A group of teenagers filled 3 booths near the back, loud but not disruptive. One of them dropped a milkshake lid on the floor and stepped over it. Kara noticed. She approached the table. "Hey, you dropped that." The boy looked at her, then at the lid, and shrugged. "Clean it up," she said. The other kids went quiet. "I'm not staff," he muttered. "No, you're a guest." "But you're not above respect. Pick it up or you're leaving." He hesitated, then bent down and grabbed the lid. Kara handed him a paper towel. "Thank you," she said. "Trash is by the drink station." Owen, watching from a distance, nodded to himself. At 7, a woman with 2 young kids came in. One of the children had a small medical ID bracelet. The woman looked frazzled, holding an EpiPen in one hand while scanning the menu. Kara stepped forward. "Is there an allergy we should be aware of?" The woman nodded. "Sesame. Severe." Kara turned to the kitchen. "Stop all sesame prep. Clear the slicer and rewrap the bread." Owen watched the team move. No one complained. Jared wiped down the slicer. Lena pulled new gloves. Norma double-checked the ingredient bin labels. The food went out 15 minutes later, and the mother's eyes filled with quiet relief. "Thank you," she said. "Most places just hope for the best." "We don't do that here," Kara replied. By 8:30, the last order went out. The lobby was nearly empty. The closing team began wiping down surfaces, stacking chairs, and pulling mats. Owen stood near the back, leaning against the wall. He looked over the floor, clean, calm, and steady, nothing flashy, just solid work. He walked up to Kara, who was counting the till. "You're making this store better than it's ever been." She didn't respond right away. "I don't know if I'm doing it right," she said. "I just don't want anyone to feel invisible here." Owen nodded. "That's the right reason." He reached into his pocket and handed her a folded envelope. "What's this?" "Your onboarding packet. Official title, salary, and a letter of recognition. You'll also find a pass for a 4-day paid break. Take it next month. No strings." Kara looked at the envelope, then at him. "I won't let this place fall apart while I'm gone. You won't have to. There's a new system in place. And more support is coming." She nodded once, then returned to the register. Owen stepped outside into the cool night air. The lot was mostly empty now, the streetlight casting a soft glow over the sidewalk. He looked back through the glass. Kara helping Lena with cleanup, Jared mopping, Norma folding her apron. No shouting. No panic. Just people doing their jobs with dignity. The problem had never been the employees. It was the silence above them that let things rot. That silence was gone. As Owen walked to his car, he knew one thing with certainty. He'd never run his company from a distance again. Not when the best lessons came from watching someone do the right thing quietly, constantly, and realizing the only reward they ever wanted was to be seen.